This old woman you're looking at, she's not a cleaner. She's the owner of the biggest real estate company in Lagos. But right now, she's scrubbing the floor like she has nothing. And no one in the building knows who she really is. Because 2 weeks ago, she made a decision that would change everything about her son's life. Margaret Lawson didn't become rich by guessing people's intentions. She learned the hard way. For over 30 years, she built her real estate company from nothing. She started small, buying land, selling plots, and handling deals many thought she would fail at. But she didn't stop. Step by step, she became one of the most respected business owners in Lagos. But success came with one problem: people. Margaret saw it many times. People smiling in front of her, but talking behind her. People acting loyal, but only when they needed something. People pretending to be kind, just to get close to power. So she became careful, very careful. One day, her son Daniel called from abroad. "Mom, I'm coming back home," he said. "For what?" she asked. "For good. I'm ready to take over the company." Margaret stayed quiet. She had waited for this moment for years, but instead of joy, she felt worry. "You are coming back alone?" she asked. "Yes, I'm coming to work, not to look for a wife." Margaret's voice softened. "You are successful, Daniel, but success without the right person beside you can be dangerous." "I don't have time for that, Mom. It's not about time," she said. "It's about life." But Daniel had already made up his mind. "I'm coming back to take over, not to look for a wife." Margaret didn't argue again. She only said, "Come home first." But after the call ended, she felt fear. Because she knew Lagos very well. People change when money is involved, and Daniel wouldn't see it coming. That night, Margaret made her decision. "If my son won't find the right woman on his own, I will find her for him. But not the normal way. Not interviews or rich meetings." She wanted truth. And truth only comes when people think you are nothing. So she planned something no one expected. She would become invisible. 3 days later, Margaret sat in front of a mirror. But she was no longer herself. Deep wrinkles were added to her face. Her hair was replaced with a grey wig. Thick glasses covered her eyes. Even her posture changed. No more confidence. Now she walked slowly, slightly bent. She practiced her voice. "Good morning now, better, prong. Good morning now, better, soft, Rick." Invisible, the makeup artist nodded. "No one will recognize you." Margaret looked at herself. "They won't even notice me." On Monday morning, she entered her company, but not through the front door. She used the back gate. A security guard looked at her. "New cleaner?" "Yes," she replied softly. He waved her in. Just like that, the owner became a stranger in her own company. Inside, everything was familiar. Glass walls, clean floors, busy workers, but no one looked at her. No greetings, no respect, no recognition. She was invisible. Mama Grace, a supervisor, called. "That's your name here. Clean this floor." She started walking slowly, quietly, watching everything. Soon, she saw the truth. A man dropped paper on the floor. She just cleaned. No apology, no look. A woman pointed and said, "Clean that corner properly." No bliss, no respect. Sandra frowned. "This place is still dirty. I just cleaned here," Margaret said softly. Chloe rolled her eyes. "Be faster. That's your job." Then Sandra poured drink on the floor. "Now clean it properly." They laughed. Margaret bent down slowly. No anger, no words. People nearby did nothing. Then a voice came. "Why would you do that?" Everyone turned. A young woman stood there. Grace Miller. Sandra's face changed. "Oh, It's you again. Show side. Why do you always get in our way, acting like a good person? Sandra added, every time you act like you're better than everyone. Grace stayed calm. I didn't come for you. Chloe stepped closer. Then stop acting perfect. Grace replied, I'm not perfect, I'm just not rude. Silence filled the room. Sandra clicked her tongue. Let's go, Chloe. They walked away angrily. The room became quiet again. Grace turned to Margaret. Are you okay? I'm fine, Margaret said softly. Grace helped clean the floor. No drama. No attention. Then she said, I'm sorry about them. We've known each other for a long time. It's always like this. Before leaving, she added, if they trouble you again, tell someone. Margaret nodded. All right. Grace walked away. Margaret stood still holding her mug. She thought deeply. Because this girl, even when insulted, still stayed calm. No shouting. No revenge. Just truth. And that made Margaret notice something different. In a place full of fake people, the one who had nothing to gain was the only one who was real. And without knowing it, Grace Miller had just become the first important piece in Margaret's plan. A few days later, something important happened in the company. A message was sent to all staff. Everyone was called for a quick meeting. People gathered in the main hall, talking quietly. Margaret also stood at the back, still acting like a cleaner. No one paid attention to her. Not anymore. The manager walked in and raised his hand. Listen, everyone, he said. Silence filled the room. The CEO's son will be arriving in a few days, the manager announced. There was a short pause. Then the room reacted. Whispers, excitement, shock. He's really coming, someone asked. Yes, the manager continued. He is coming to take over the company. Immediately, everything changed. People started looking at themselves. Fixing clothes, fixing hair, sitting up straight. Everyone wanted to look important now. Sandra Brooks smiled the moment she heard the news. She leaned closer to Chloe Daniels. This is it, she said quietly. Chloe smiled back. Our chance, she replied. Sandra nodded. We just need to stand out. Chloe adjusted her hair. And make sure he notices us first. Both of them laughed softly, not loudly, but with confidence. They already had a plan in their minds. From that day, Sandra and Chloe changed their behavior. They were still rude to others, but now they were careful about it. They smiled more in the office. They stayed near managers. They made sure people saw them working. But behind it all, they were planning how to get close to the CEO's son. Sandra believed confidence would win him. Chloe believed beauty and charm would win him. Neither of them cared about truth, only opportunity. But Chloe still had one habit. She never stopped picking on Margaret. Every time she saw her cleaning, she made comments. One afternoon, Chloe walked past and frowned, seriously, and said loudly, "This place is always dirty when you are around." Margaret didn't respond. She just kept cleaning. Chloe crossed her arms. "You should resign before the CEO's son comes," she said. "People like you will embarrass the company." Some workers nearby heard it, but no one said anything. Chloe stepped closer. "You are too old for this job anyway," she added. "Go home and rest." Margaret stayed quiet, still cleaning, still calm. Later that day, Sandra and Chloe spoke again. This time, more serious. "We need a real plan," Sandra said. Chloe nodded. "We can't just hope he notices us." Sandra smiled. "We make sure he does." Chloe leaned in. "Dress well. Be close. Always appear useful," Sandra added. "And remove anything that looks weak." They both looked in the direction of Margaret and smiled. The day finally came. The whole company felt different from morning. Nobody was joking anymore. Nobody was relaxed. Everyone was alert, like something big was about to happen. Sandra Brooks checked her clothes again and again. Chloe Daniels kept looking at the mirror on her phone. Even workers who never cared before were now trying to look serious. But Margaret still came in as the old cleaner, quiet, slow, invisible. Outside the company, black cars started arriving. Security became very tight. Workers rushed to windows again. Whispers spread fast. He's here now. The CEO's son is here now. The energy in the building changed immediately. Managers stood straight. Phones were put away. Everyone tried to act professional, but their eyes showed excitement and fear at the same time. Daniel Lawson stepped out of the car. He looked calm, dressed simple but expensive. No noise around him. No rushing, just control. Senior managers quickly surrounded him. Only important staff were allowed near him. The rest of the workers stayed far away, watching. Sandra and Chloe could only see him from distance, but they were already excited. This was their moment. Sandra quickly fixed her hair. "Stay ready," she whispered to Chloe. Chloe nodded. "I will be the first he notices," she said. Sandra smirked. "We'll see." After the inspection, the managers led Daniel to his office. The office was big and prepared for him. Everyone followed behind, explaining things quickly. Finally, the manager said, "Sir, this is your office. If you need anything, just tell us." Daniel nodded slowly. Then he dismissed them with a hand gesture. Daniel stood for a moment inside the office. Then he sat down slowly. But he wasn't relaxed. He was thinking about everything he saw. Then he stood up again, walked to the door, and opened it. "Bring me the cleaner," he said to a passing staff member. The staff nodded quickly and left. A few minutes later, Margaret was brought to his office. Alone, she walked in slowly, still dressed like a cleaner, still acting weak and old. Daniel closed the door behind her. Silence filled the room. No one else was there, just mother and son. He looked at her carefully for a moment, then spoke softly. Margaret didn't respond immediately. She just stood still. Then Daniel asked again, "What are you doing here?" He paused. "Why are you dressed like this? And why are you pretending to be a cleaner in your own company?" One afternoon, Margaret and Grace met again during a short break. The office was quieter than usual. Grace sat down slowly, looking more tired than before. Margaret noticed it immediately. "You are not resting enough." Margaret sat beside her. "You carry too much alone," she said softly. Grace looked down at her hands. "I have no choice," she replied quietly. "My younger brother depends on me. My rent is also due soon." Silence followed. Margaret nodded slowly. Grace's continued. "I just need to keep working. That's all I can do." Later that day, Grace walked to the finance office. She stood outside for a moment before entering. Inside, she spoke respectfully. "Good afternoon, sir. I would like to request my salary early." The manager looked at her for a moment. "Early salary?" he repeated. "Yes, sir," she said. "My house rent is due, and I need to settle it quickly." The room became quiet for a second. Then the manager leaned back. "You know, company policy doesn't usually allow this," he said slowly. Grace nodded. "I understand, sir, but I really need it this time." The manager looked at her for a moment longer than necessary. Then he gave a small smile that didn't feel friendly. "Maybe we can talk about it privately," he said. He felt uncomfortable immediately. She understood the meaning without needing more words. She stood still for a second, then quietly said, "I'll come back later, sir," and she left. She didn't tell anyone about it, not Sandra, not Chloe, not even her closest colleagues. She just went back to her desk and continued working like nothing happened. But inside, she felt heavier. That night, she worried about rent more than ever. She didn't sleep well. Her younger brother was the only reason she kept pushing forward. The next morning, Grace made a decision. She would try again, but this time, she would go higher. She heard that the CEO's son had started handling company matters directly. So during a short break, she walked carefully toward the executive floor. Security tried to stop her at first, but she explained calmly, "I just need a few minutes with him. It's urgent." After some hesitation, they allowed her in. Daniel was in his office when she was brought in. He looked up immediately.